I've always said that I've never had a real job, and there is a certain level of like being on a trapeze without a net, and it's not for everyone. What I've seen a lot of founders make a mistake in is that they try to build version 3.0 of their product before they build an MVP or a version 1.0.
See, it's tough. It's a tough race, and once you start taking money from investors, you better deliver.
The best piece of legal advice I can give to you is to keep your own hands clean.
Yes.
So in any kind of negotiation, any kind of, situation, try to do the right thing.
You can lose 85% of your business, but still come out the other side.
Welcome to Forging the Future. And today I'm pleased to be at the ION where we had the Houston Startup Showcase. And a number of startups, startup development organizations, and other members of the ecosystem are here to come together to show what we've got here in Houston. And then there's going to be pitches afterward for several of the startups and a judging competition. This is something that didn't exist before in Houston. I was a judge a couple years ago for the pitch competition, but this is so much bigger than it was back then. So I'm super excited to be here today. Today at the Houston Startup Showcase at the ION, speaking with Gustavo Suarez from Trez.
That is correct, and I'm glad that you are practicing your Spanish today, Chris.
I'm trying. I know to say something like, yo quiero pagar la cuenta, por favor.
There you go. And then whenever you go and order tacos, then you can say, can I have tres tacos?
Tres tacos.
So now at least you're going to be able to feed yourself.
That's perfect.
Now, how about we do this, Chris? Because every time we get to see you asking the questions to us, and I would love to take the opportunity today for me to take it back and ask you the questions.
So I'm on the hot seat.
You are in the hot seat.
Okay.
We're recording. This is not going to be edited, meaning that all the answers that you will be providing, it's what the audience are going to get.
All right.
So, Chris, you're definitely an icon for not only the Houston small business ecosystem, but also for the Houston tech ecosystem. And tech is so new in Houston, but not anymore. I mean, today we are at this amazing event and we see tens of people here attending and showing that Houston is strong in tech. What are those things that you've seen since you started your career in how Houston has evolved in the tech conversation?
Yeah. Well, I mean, definitely there's been an evolution, right? So 35 years ago, there just wasn't really a lot for startup founders, and that was true for a really long time. So I'm really pleased to see the momentum that Houston has behind it now. I think we are in the top 5 of emerging startup ecosystems. I just saw this report a few days ago. I think that's evident from the turnout that you see here today. A lot of activity, a lot of startup founders. There wasn't anything like this available for me when I started my first company, even my second company here in Houston. And so I think that the startup development organizations, the support from the venture community, there's just so much you can learn and know and do and go and meet other founders. People used to ask me, oh, you must know a lot of founders. And I'm like, I don't even know where to find them. I'm just working on my startup. But now there is a place to find them, and an ION is one of those places.
Absolutely. And I think the whole ecosystem, it plays a good competitive advantage for both the investors and the founders because they can find startups at a great deal in terms of valuation, provide resources from the investor side, and then the co-founders are ready with all the energy to make it work just because there isn't that many startups here.
Yeah.
Now, I personally, I have to confess, I come from a traditional small business background. And what that means is that I had no idea that I could accelerate my small business with technology and also go national because of tech. I was privileged to be part of ecosystems and conversations in Silicon Valley, Stanford University, and that's how I say this is not a fair game. I need to do that transition. So what are those tips that you can provide to founders that are in traditional small business today or that are about to launch their startup or are in an earlier stage on how to build the right product, whatever that means, because it's a crazy statement. The right product.
Yeah, the right product. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things. It depends if it's a technical product. If it's a technical product, what I've seen a lot of founders make a mistake in is that they try to build version 3.0 of their product before they build an MVP or a version 1.0, right? And so really just trying to get your product built and make a couple of clients happy is really key because you don't know what you don't know yet. And so founders will spend too much time building a product, right? And then also just taking advantage of what's available now in Houston. There's startup development organizations. There's 30 plus of them out there, and they all have different features and skill sets. You know, if you're in energy or something like that, you might take advantage of what's going on at Greentown Labs. If you need a hardware or software product built, you might go to somebody like Softtech to go through a venture studio and get the advice from businesses that have been building products for the Fortune 100 for years, right? Both in hardware and software.
So let's take that back for a moment, especially for the non-technical founders or those who are aiming to become founders. When you say do not build that technology, does that mean, and this is an analogy that I normally give, iPhone, the lenses, most of the times the technology already exists. The face recognition, that's the technology already exists. The ecosystem of applications. So what I'm thinking is that when building a product, you can leverage third-party technologies, package your own product, test it, and then deploy. And when you say, check the box, then you come back and build it. Can you elaborate a little bit on that based on your experience, maybe a case that you remember?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, you don't have to always start from scratch, first of all, to build a product. Like you said, take advantage of what's already out there and integrate it and prove it out. That would be like an MVP, right? What's already existing off the shelf, how do I get it together? See if a customer will actually pay and buy it, will actually solve a need, right? I think the other part of that is, you know, if you're not technical, how do you meet that challenge? You know, that's where you... in the past, 9 out of 10 startups had a technical co-founder, and now 9 out of 10 don't, but they've grown up with technology.
Wow.
You know, and so they know about mobile apps, they know about the web, they know about Web 3.0, all of that, but they don't need to know how to code it, right? And they don't necessarily have to get a co-founder in there that knows about the technology before you've actually got your company off the ground. So partnering with an SDO that has that experience and that technical know-how is one way to get your business started. Without having to try to find a co-founder.
So basically, staying focused as a CEO, work on that vision, aim to the sky, land on the roof, recruit. So have a strong network so you can recruit the right talent, meaning where your weaknesses are, and then sales. Just being out there ready to be able to sell. Now, switching gears, because this is something that some of them have already heard about the tech space, the tech ecosystem. The invitation is, we've been consumers for such a long time. How about we become creators? So this is what this conversation is about. But there is one item that not many talk about, which is when we clock out. If it's at 7, 8, 9 p.m. and we go home, one of my investors, advisors, friends, one time he told me, Gustavo, what's wrong with you? What's happening? And I say, what do you mean? It's like, there is something happening. And I say, well, yeah, I'm missing my child. I haven't seen him for X amount of days. And this was a last minute trip. And me like almost going down in tears, he tells me, Gustavo, my entire career, I've been away from home. Unfortunately, I had to go through a divorce because of that. So you're going to have to pay the price somewhere. But something that worked for him, he said, make sure that your kids know that whenever they call you and whenever they need you, you will always be there for them. Mm-hmm. So what are those experiences that you can share from 30 years plus of experience? And I'm not trying to reveal your age, that you can share with the audience. This is a reality check. So there is the social media, the perfect picture. What's really behind the scenes besides all of the success that everybody else sees?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people talk about that work-life balance. The reality is, as an entrepreneur, you're really all in on the company practically 24/7. So the challenge is, how do you carve out time for your wife, for your kids, for your family, and do that consistently? My approach always was, well, first of all, I started my business out of my house, right? And that allowed me to be present in ways I wouldn't normally be able to be present because I could be there in the mornings. We also homeschooled, so we were there. The kids were there; they were around. I could come out and have lunch with them. I could go back into the office. I could come out and be there for family time, for wrestling before dinner, having dinner, do the bedtime routine. Kids go to bed. And so making sure you prioritize that, and then prioritizing, going to the baseball games, going to their gymnastics events, going to whatever interests them, not that you necessarily are going to make every single one of those, but if you're available for that, and then if you do need to work a little more, that means going back in in this case, a home office, and then putting in a couple more hours before you go to bed. But you're not stealing time away from those events because you can't get that time back, right? They're going to grow up. They're going to get older. You need to make
and you're never gonna get that time back.
No, not at all. So you gotta make sure you're putting that time in, because you're always going to have something in the back of your head as a founder. There's going to be a lot of stress. There's going to be a lot of things going on. But I think people think that they can postpone it and put in like 3 months or 6 months of effort, and I'll get back and I'll catch up to it. But the reality is 3 months turn to 6 months, turn to 12 months, turn into 3 years, turn into 5 years. You turn around, you're like, your kids have grown up, right? So if you're not just consistently prioritizing that, and there's going to be times when you're going to be out of town. You're not going to be able to do it that day, or you're going to maybe miss a baseball game or something. But if you're doing it consistently, you're going to be there more than not.
Yeah, and I think it's also bringing values like empathy, having empathy towards other people, being responsible as a leader to where you're not showing that perfect picture, especially in social media and the social media platforms, to where everything is perfect. And in reality, behind the scenes, a lot of founders are struggling. And a reflection that I had with a managing director of one of the largest global accelerators, we say either your levels of stupidity are too high, or there is something wrong with your brain if you jump as a tech founder, especially that I had the opportunity to compare from a traditional business to tech. So the last few words of encouragement, but also saying it's okay and this is not for everyone, because it's tough. It's a tough race. And once you start taking money from investors, you better deliver.
Yeah.
So closing remarks from Chris.
Yeah. No, that's true. I mean, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. It is a time commitment. It is a huge commitment for anybody. And there is a lot of stress involved. And there's a difference between, getting a paycheck on Friday versus how am I going to create enough money to give a paycheck to 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, 500 people. I got to make payroll every other week. I got to come up with $1 million, right? Or whatever the number is. And being able to manage that stress is super important. And that's where you have to take care of yourself and your own mental health, right? And I'm not sure I was so good at that in the early days, but I think I have a high propensity for stress, I think, or managing stress. But lately I've tried to concentrate more on that, different ways of managing it, taking care of yourself, taking that breather, spending time with your family for one thing is a valve. The other things would be whether that's exercise or meditation or other things, or your networks with people, and especially now comparing notes with other founders and having a support group to kind of work through some of those issues. Because you're right. I mean, Elon Musk compares it to chewing glass and staring into the abyss, right?
And so, sleeping in the office and doing all of those practices that they should not be the norm. So this is it. Today I had the honor to ask the questions, and it's been an honor. And thank you everybody for listening. This is being vulnerable, and this is showing you what's real behind the beautiful pictures that we all get to see.
So one of the things we work on in the SoftTech Venture Studio that is very important for a founder is the pitch. And best way to do that is to actually practice your pitching in front of an audience. And so that's what we're doing here. There's a pitch competition, getting in front of people, being able to tell your story succinctly and in a way that they understand it. So pitches is something that we really focus on and work really hard at in the SoftTech Venture Studio.
Hi, everybody. I'm the CEO and co-founder of WellWorth. And we have been part of SoftTech Venture Studio. And today, Chris, you're in the hot seat. And I'm excited to ask you some questions from your experience as a founder.
I'm looking forward to it, Samra.
So, Chris, from your early days as a founder, can you pick one defining moment?
One defining moment. Well, there were many different challenges. I mean, one was a decision to move my business back to my house. I had a previous company. I moved to the house, and I think that was one defining moment. Another one was a time when I decided that I needed to open an office internationally, and we opened an office in Belarus because I saw that in order to compete with other businesses in the IT services space, I needed a lower cost option. And so I decided to open an office in Eastern Europe, in Belarus, actually, and get on a plane. And I thought, hey, I'm a startup founder. I'm going to go start a business in a foreign country, which was definitely a challenge. But it did define the company. And now we're an international business with offices in 4 countries and developers in over 22. So if I hadn't done that and made that leap, then the company might not have even been around now.
Yeah, talking about the first point that you mentioned, you were ahead of the game in terms of working from home.
Yeah, I mean, I think even in my first business, I saw the value of working from home. I had young kids. I was commuting all the way down to NASA and up to downtown Houston and back home again, spending a lot of time in the car. And I had an opportunity to start doing some consulting. And I thought, I could actually work from home. I had a computer. I had an IBM AT, so it was right at the beginning of the computer revolution. And then I could be home more, right? And then just go to school. Right?
And you bootstrapped your business initially, right?
Yeah, both of my businesses. So that was the first business. Second business, same thing. When I decided, instead of paying for rent and brick and mortar,
Yep.
I was going to pay for the fastest internet line I could. It was $2,500 a month. It was a T1 line during the AOL dial-up days. I thought, this is going to be my rent on the information superhighway. And I had a server. I set up an office. And yeah, we homeschooled our 5 kids. So definitely, just like everyone found out after COVID, you can actually run your business from home.
From my experience, it's a really important skill set for a founder to be able to manage stress. How have you traditionally managed stress, especially considering you're running SoftTech as well as SoftTech Venture Studio?
Well, I think in the early days, I just was maybe just better at managing it, period. I mean, maybe I have a high tolerance for stress. I had 5 kids. I'm running the business from home. I've always said that I've never had a real job, and there is a certain level of like being on a trapeze without a net, and it's not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I would do it over again, especially now, I'm trying to do more things to take care of myself, especially since I've gotten older.
Yeah.
So the things I'm trying to do is exercise more, work on my diet. I'm trying meditation, which is supposed to be really great, and the statistics show you don't even need to spend much time on that for just be able to improve your stress and mental health. So a lot of it is just an attitude of like, this too shall pass, right?
Yes.
And just really understanding that you're going to get through the day. Not that there's been days when, there's been a lot of stress in my life, but I think that also balancing that with family and spending time with your kids
Yes.
is a big stress relief as well. And if you cut that out, that actually increases to your stress because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not spending time with my family.
Exactly.
I'm missing my kids' stuff. So making sure you don't do that also helps your overall stress level. What about you? You're a startup founder. So how are you managing stress?
Yeah, so we always say like in the startup journey, you might have one day that you're really happy and you're excited and you feel like everything is going well. And the next day you're like sad and depressed and you're like, nothing's going to work. And nothing has changed between those 2 days. So it can be ups and downs. It might not be based on anything. But I think it's really important for you to manage stress, I think on a daily basis. So now we've picked up pickleball recently. So that's a really good way for us to de-stress and also work out. So we think that we recommend that to everybody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of it's attitude, right? I mean, if you have that right mental attitude that you understand that a startup journey is a roller coaster, there are going to be great ups and great downs. I like that line from, I think it's Jocko from Extreme Ownership, a book I'm reading right now. And one of his points is like, if you just look at what I feel is, I've said also, like looking at opportunities in adversity. Essentially, oh, you've lost a customer. They were 85% of your business. You have two choices. You can go into your bedroom, curl up into a ball and shut the door and don't come out for a week. Or you can be like, well, what's the opportunity in the adversity here? So what Jocko says is basically, oh, you lost that customer? Well, good. Now you have an opportunity to get other customers. And that's really what I've approached it as, is where's the positive here? Where's the opportunity here? Instead of just, and in a lot of those cases, one door opens and one door closes, another door opens. That's what I'm talking about, the opportunity. What can I do here? Oh, I have all these people now that are trained and that I can put immediately on a project. I just need to find the right client now, because not every other competing services business has a bench that large that they can immediately apply to a problem. And so, like in that situation, with a real example, I lost 85% of my business with one client because they were so much a part of my company. By 6 months later, I had every single person working. I'm hiring as fast as I could. And I had 3 customers instead of 1. And my company was much more stable than it was before. So,
yeah, I think it must be so helpful for other founders to hear about this as well. Like, you can lose 85% of your business, but still come out the other side with such a successful business as you. So, Chris, early on in your startup journey, what kind of mentors and advisors did you have? And did those connections happen like organically, or did you seek those people out?
well, in my own journey, which started 35 plus years ago, I really didn't have any mentors, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know what possessed me. I just was always an entrepreneur and decided to venture off on my own and try to figure it out. But there was no internet, right? There were no startup development organizations. There was no mentor networks. There was SCORE, which is the Society of Retired Executives. So I did go to like a seminar about that and got like a copied booklet or something to try to understand, well, how do I, should I be a sole proprietorship? Should I be, a corporation? Is it a C Corp, S Corp, those kinds of things? But unfortunately, I didn't just have the network that is so much available now, especially in Houston, right? You see this room full of companies, organizations that can help consult other founders, places to go where you can find other founders. I didn't even know where to go to find them, right? There was one piece of advice that was given to me by my lawyer a long time ago that still resonates for me. What he said, Chris, the best piece of legal advice I can give to you is to keep your own hands clean.
Yes.
So in any kind of negotiation, any kind of, situation, try to do the right thing and try to imagine yourself standing in front of the judge at that point and not giving the other guy anything to talk about, like, well, he did this and he did that. So that's been a pretty impactful piece of advice, but I would encourage founders to reach out and take advantage of everything that the startup ecosystem has to offer now, because there's so many entrepreneurs and founders and mentors available that you just have to, ask questions. You don't even have to pay them, and they're people like me. I'm a big believer in give first, right?
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that that's changed.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice from your lawyer there. And also, like, we've been working on WellWorth for 5 years now, full-time 4 years. And we have seen the Houston system evolve. Like, there were not that many people that you could go out and talk to just maybe 6 years ago. And now there's a lot more organizations and, accelerators that have come to Houston. And basically, we have so many advisors and mentors that we can go to for a specific thing that we need help with. So it's really exciting to be in Houston right now as a startup founder.
Well, then you need to go to some of those events. You need to meet people, and this is where the collisions happen, and opportunities can come from random places. I mean, some of the biggest opportunities I've had have come from just going to a lunch meeting with a client and with no expectation at all. right? And you get asked, hey, what could you set up a team of 20 firmware engineers for me, right? How fast can you do that? And that wouldn't happen unless you're out there networking. And there's a lot of networking you can do now. And like you said, you can take advantage of even not just one startup development organization, but even several. Several of them don't
Yes.
even take equity, right? And so I highly encourage it. You young kids have it easy now.
I think we have it easy in some ways and not that easy in other ways. But yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So I'm excited for you. You're here to pitch. You were part of the Satec Venture Studio earlier. So tell me a little bit about what you're doing here at the Ion after this event.
Yeah, so we're pitching at the Houston Startup Showcase. Excited to do that. We actually recently did another pitch with Society of Petroleum Engineers, and we won an award there. So excited to see a pitch alongside some amazing startup founders today.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
I'm excited to
and
watch
thank you
it.
for having me and answering some of the questions that I asked you.
I love it too. Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
So I really enjoyed that, being on the hot seat for once. I think it's super important for founders to give back and to share lessons learned. So thanks for tuning in to Forging the Future, and we'll see you next time.